Boltwood was uninterestedly fumbling in his money pocket. Behind Milt Daggett, Claire shook her head wildly, rattling her hands as though she were playing castanets. Mr. Boltwood shrugged. He did not understand. His relations with young men in cheap raincoats were entirely monetary. They did something for you, and you paid them, preferably not too much, and they ceased to be. Whereas Milt Daggett, respectfully but solidly, continued to be, and Mr. Henry Boltwood's own daughter was halting the march of affairs by asking irrelevant questions. "Didn't we see you back in, what was that village we came through back about 12 miles?" "Schoenstrom?" suggested Milt. "Yes, I think that was it. Didn't we pass you or something? We stopped at a garage there to change a tire." "I don't think so. I was in town, though, this morning. Say, did you and your father grab any eats? Did you get dinner there?" "No, I wish we had." "Well, say, I didn't either, and I'd be awfully glad if you folks would have something to eat with me now." Claire tried to give him a smile, but the best she could do was to lend him one. She could not associate interesting food with Milt and his mud-slobbered, tin-covered, dun-painted teal bug. He seemed satisfied with her dubious grimace. By his suggestion, they drove ahead to a spot where the cars could be parked on firm grass beneath oaks. On the way, Mr. Boltwood lifted his voice in dismay. His touch of nervous prostration had not made him queer or violent. He retained a touching faith in good food. "We might find some good little hotel and have some chops and just some mushrooms and peas," insisted the man from Brooklyn Heights. "Oh, I don't suppose the country hotels are really so awfully good," she speculated. "And look, that nice funny boy. We couldn't hurt his feelings. He's having so much fun out of being a good Samaritan." From the mysterious rounded back of his car, Milt Daggett drew a tiny stove, to be heated by a can of solidified alcohol, a frying pan that was rather large for dolls but rather small for square-fingered hands, a jar of bacon, eggs in a bag, a coffee pot, a can of condensed milk, and a litter of unsorted tin plates and china cups. While, by his request, Claire scoured the plates and cups, he made bacon and eggs and coffee, the little stove in the bottom of his car sheltered by the cook's bending over it. The smell of food made Claire forgiving toward the fact that she was wet through, that the rain continued to drizzle down her neck. He lifted his hand and demanded, "Take your shoes off." "Huh?" He gulped. He stammered, Your shoes are soaked through. If you sit in the car, I'll put your shoes up by the engine. It's pretty well heated from racing it in the mud. You can get your stockings dry under the cowl." She was amused by the elaborateness with which he didn't glance at her while she took off her low shoes and slipped her quite too thin black stockings under the protecting tin cowl. She reflected, "He has such a good, nice, awkward gentleness. But such bad taste. They're really good ankles. Apparently ankles are not done in teal-bug circles. His sisters didn't even have limbs. But do fairies have sisters? He is a fairy. When I'm out of the mud, he'll turn his raincoat into a pair of lordly white wings and vanish. But what will become of the cat?" Thus her tired brain. Like a squirrel in a revolving cage, while she sat primly and scraped at a clot of rust on a tin plate and watched him put on the bacon and eggs. Wondering if cats were used for this purpose in the Daggett family, she put soaked, unhappy Vere de Vere on her feet to her own great comfort and the cat's delight. It was an open car, and the rain still rained, and a strange young man was afoot from her tending the not very crackly fire, but rarely had Claire felt so domestic. Milt was apparently struggling to say something. After several bobs of his head, he ventured, "You're so wet. I'd like for you to take my raincoat." "No, really, I'm already soaked through. You keep dry." He was unhappy about it. He plucked at a button of the coat. She turned him from the subject. "I hope Lady Vere de Vere is getting warm too." "Seems to be. She's kind of demanding. She wanted a little car of her own, but I didn't think she could keep up with me. Not on a long hike." "A little car? With her paws on the tiny wheel? Oh, sweet. Are you going far, Mr. Daggett?" Yes, quite a ways. To Seattle, Washington. Oh, really? Extraordinary. We're going there too. Honest? You driving all the way? Oh no, of course, your father. No, he doesn't drive. By the way, I hope he isn't too miserable back there. I'll be darned. Both of us going to Seattle. That's what they call a coincidence, isn't it? Hope I'll see you on the road sometime, but I don't suppose I will. Once you're out of the mud, your Gomez will simply lose my teal. Not necessarily. You're the better driver. And I shall take it easy. Are you going to stay long in Seattle? It was not merely a polite dinner payment question. She wondered. She could not place this fresh-cheeked, unworldly young man so far from his home. Why, I kind of hope. Government railroad, Alaska. I'm going to try to get in on that somehow. I've never been out of Minnesota in my life, but there's a couple mountains and oceans and things I thought I'd like to see. So I just put my suitcase and verre de verre in the machine and started out. I burn distillate instead of gas, so it doesn't cost much. If I ever happen to have $5 whole, why, I might go on to Japan. That would be jolly. Though I suppose I'd have to eat, what is it, pickled fish? There's a woman from near my town went to the Orient as a missionary. From what she says, I guess all you need in Japan to make a house is a bottle of mucilage and a couple of old newspapers and some 2x4s. And you can have the house on a purple mountain with cherry trees down below. And, he put clenched hands to his lips. His head was bowed. And the ocean. Lord, the ocean. And we'll see it at Seattle Bay, anyway. And steamers there just come from India. Huh. Getting pretty darn poetic here. Eggs are done. The young man did not again wander into visions. He was all briskness as he served her bacon and eggs, took a plate of them to Mr. Boltwood in the Gomez, gouged into his own. Having herself scoured the tin plates, Claire was not repulsed by their naked tinniness, and the coffee in the broken-handled china cup was tolerable. Milt drank from the top of a vacuum bottle. He was silent. Immediately after the lunch, he stowed the things away. Claire expected a drawn-out, tact-demanding farewell, but he climbed into his bug, said, "Goodbye, Miss Boltwood, good luck," and was gone. The rainy road was bleakly empty without him. It did not seem possible that Claire's body could be nagged into going on any longer. Her muscles were relaxed, her nerves frayed. But the moment the Gomez started, she discovered that magic change which every long-distance motorist knows. Instantly she was alert, seemingly able to drive forever. The pilot's instinct ruled her, gave her tireless eyes and sturdy hands. Surely she had never been weary, never would be, so long as it was hers to keep the car going. She had driven perhaps 6 miles when she reached a hamlet called St. Klopstock. On the bedraggled mud and shanty main street, a man was loading crushed rock into a truck. By him was a large person in a prosperous raincoat, who stepped out and held up his hand. Claire stopped. "You the young lady that got stuck in that hole by Adolph Zolzac's?" "Yes, and Mr. Zolzac wasn't very nice about it." "He's going to be just elegant about it now, and there ain't going to be any more hole. I think Adolph has been keeping it muddy, throwing in soft dirt, and he made a good and plenty lot out of pulling out tourists. Bill and I are going down right now and fill it up with stone. Milt Daggett come through here. He's got a nerve, that fellow. But I did have to laugh. He says to me, 'Barney,' this was just now, he hadn't more than just drove out of town. He said to me, 'Barney,' he says, 'you're the richest man in this township, and the banker, and you got a big car yourself, and you think you're one whale of a political boss,' he says. 'And yet you let that Zolzac maintain a private ocean against the peace and damned horrible inconvenience of the Commonwealth of Minnesota.' He's got a great line of talk, that fellow. He told me how you got stuck. Made me so ashamed. I'd been to New York myself, and right away I got Bill, and we're going down and hold a donation and surprise party on Adolph and fill that hole." "But won't Adolph dig it out again?" The banker was puffy, but his eyes were of stone. From the truck he took a shotgun. He drawled, "In that case, the surprise party will include an elegant wake." "But who is this extraordinary Milt Daggett?" "Him? Oh, nobody